This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Welcome. This is our first day of the Lenten version of the Sunday broadcast of BARD at the altar of BARD. Sorry we're a little bit late, but what the heck?
Yeah, for those who feared I gave up on Sunday recordings for Lent, fear not.
I love it. And, there's a couple of, we're obviously going to deal with Murdoch because it was quite a week there. One of the things that we may end with, Gary, if you find anything, there's a wicked rumor on the internet about the newly elected senator from Pennsylvania. So maybe we'll end with that. But I think in the legal world, both with laymen and in amongst lawyers, because I can always tell when the tabloid style cases have entered the legal world by which of the lawyers are talking about it, number one, and are asking an opinion, and number two, which of the legal publications are covering it. And I think the thing that was surprising to many people this week, if you had talked about it last week, was whether Alex Murdoch would take the stand, and he did take the stand, and he was on the stand for at least 2 days, and people were second guessing that and third guessing that. And I think I had explained to you, and I'll explain it again here, there was really nothing for him to lose. He is facing under South Carolina law on the financial crimes with the enhancement. He's facing basically life. And so this idea that and by the way, that evidence is enormously strong. He's conceded it, he's confessed it, he's the testimony and the financials are pretty compelling. So when he knows that, this is a savvy lawyer. When he knows that, he also at the same time can keep in his mind, what do I have to lose by not getting up there and testifying? Because I know that you get the law, and I know I always it's the toughest decision a defense lawyer ever makes, and you never want to put your client on the stand. But nevertheless, jurors want to hear from the client. There is a natural inclination, no matter what you tell them, no matter what the law is, that they say, if it were me, you couldn't keep me off that stand. And so if you've got nothing to lose and you're going to do life anyway, why wouldn't you get up on the stand is my feeling. And that's exactly what he did. And then I think you've got one of the clips that kind of made the rounds. And if you play it, we'll talk after.
Yesterday, that you were paranoid. How long had that been going on?
Well, no, I didn't say that I was paranoid. What I said was, as the addiction evolved, there would be situations where you would have these paranoid thoughts.
And when did those first start?
I can't tell you when they first started, but...
how long before June of 2021?
Oh, a long
week,
time.
A month, a long time?
No. It was, it was as my addiction got worse. It was a significant period of time. But,
how long would we have these paranoid thoughts?
Usually a matter of seconds. It was something, again, my whole life, you wouldn't see me where I didn't have pills on me. And that's where I kept them. I kept them on me because I was scared to put them somewhere for fear somebody would find them. So I kept them on me. So if you saw me, I had pills on me. I had a pocket full of pills on June the 8th. On June the 8th, when I was sitting in David Owen's patrol car. So I always had them on me, and I might be going to Edisto, and I turn on Hampton Street right out here, and a police car pulls out. Boom. I have paranoid thoughts. But I could always say, you're not doing anything wrong. He's not following you, and I could get past it in a matter of seconds.
So it's an interesting concept. You'll remember, Gary, and also when I was talking with Drew on the Adam and Drew show, maybe almost a month ago, a lot of the talking heads were minimizing the opiates and how that was going to play into the defense, and it's ridiculous to suggest it was. And I remember asking Drew a couple of questions. You probably remember. You produced the show.
Yeah, I do. You gave Drew a long line of questioning, and basically what it ended with is it all tracks until the violence, until the murder. Drew just said that, everything else that had happened, and you correct me if my memory is foggy here, but my memory is that Drew said that he can basically, to a T, understand every single thing that happened up until the murder. It's all telltale of an opioid addict who's maybe facing financial pressure and who's trying to keep their addiction, a secret and at bay. And, ultimately the violence part is the part that doesn't track.
Right. And so for those who are listening, when he says it doesn't track, you can say this is an incredibly sophisticated defense that is able to explain the facts that are there. Why did he lie? Why did he lie? Why did he lie? Why did he steal? Why did he cheat? Why did he steal? Well, I believe that he has told his truth in the sense that if he was addicted, it plays right into exactly his behavior, as you said, up until the murder. Now, that is interesting to me because people don't understand or were poo-pooing that. And look, now we've got it. We also have another fact that was established that at the time that they drew his blood in close proximity to the murders, he had opiates in his bloodstream and at a level that was clearly showed that he had either tolerance or meaning it was high enough that somebody would be normally under the influence or had a high tolerance. So we had that. We also, since that time that we talked about it, have testimony from Maggie, who was his wife, who was deceased, who was the murder victim. The sister said that she was talking and conversing with Maggie about his opioid use and that was a real problem. And that was something that came up. And I'll tell you another thing that we have not heard. And Gary, I don't know if you can find it. There was a People magazine article, and I'm going to call them out. People magazine had an article in which they claimed that Maggie had visited divorce lawyers and had sent a text to a friend that day. And we're going back a year and a half. So that was kind of, and for those of you who have maybe read Mistrial, I talk about how back, here you go. Saw a divorce lawyer. What's the date on that?
This is from September 29th, 2021.
Yeah. Guess what? You went through weeks of the prosecution's case. You've now seen the defense. You had front page of a father's deep secrets on the cover of the magazine. Guess what you never heard? Any testimony or documents that support that story.
Right.
None.
Not
Zero.
Not even.
No. And nothing. And that's a real problem that can get out into the zeitgeist. What'd you say? What was the date?
September 21.
Yeah, a year and a half ago.
Yeah, just 3 months after it went.
Yeah, a little shy of a year and a half, right?
Right.
So it's that kind of. So when I see people arguing about this or talking about this, the things that become urban legends, that's what's so frustrating about these supersized cases, because you can talk about stuff and you can formulate an opinion that somebody is guilty. But until you get into the courtroom and you actually hear what the evidence is, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Now,
and I mean, that article came out, right around the time that everyone in that community of potential jurors was probably paying attention to anything that had Murdoch's name on it. I mean, it was right in the heat of, it was kind of around when we started covering it and we were so ardent about it, and we've kept on it for all this time, but we're not potentially being called to the jury.
And by the way, cover story.
Yeah.
People still talking about that as if it were true. And why didn't the prosecution prove it? As if the prosecution had that, it wouldn't have been brought out. Or when they put Maggie's sister on, they wouldn't have brought it out. I mean, it's incredibly frustrating. Which segues us into this next clip that we have.
Yes, we do. Let's go right here.
This scene of a double murderer defendant on the witness stand talking about the victims, and the jury's crying with him?
You mean the former prosecutor, part-time solicitor on the stand that's trained to talk to juries? Are you ready, Vinny? Let me tell you how many jurors were crying again. You ready?
Yeah.
Two jurors in the jury box up front closest to Alec Murdoch. He is only less than 6 feet away, positioning his body so close to them, talking to each one of them. It almost felt like from the gallery that he was pleading with them. I didn't do this. I didn't murder my wife and my son. And crying through it all, especially when he talked about Paul.
And mind you, now, you know what we've got? Now there was Matt, who was sitting in the courtroom, who reported it. And by the way, it would not, to me, having tried hundreds of cases and watching the testimony itself, that we didn't play the testimony right there, but that was played, watching it.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say, out of 14 people, actually, because there were 2 alternates also in the box, what would shock me is if nobody had a reaction.
Yeah, and we didn't, like you said, we didn't play it here, but I've watched it, and it's, whether or not you become physically and visibly emotional, it's impossible not to have emotions while you are hearing that. So correct, to think that there are 14 people of similar constitutions who aren't going to outwardly show the emotion they are feeling is a tough ask, I would say.
And that's what's so frustrating about watching the commentary from the cheap seats is people who will cite stuff that is demonstrably non-existent in the trial, or say what an immediate eyewitness reported in a courtroom, which is consistent with what you would expect upon seeing somebody, and then saying, no, I've seen all kinds of stuff today, but no, it didn't happen. Nobody cried. There was nothing there, even though there was actually a box of Kleenex that was pushed by one of the jurors in his direction. I mean, it just is mind-boggling. We're going to get closing arguments this week. I would imagine we will do quite potentially could do the big show on the heels of the closing arguments this week.
Yes, I think that's right. And if anything does come down after that, you and I will be sure to clean them up with some bards over the weekend that is to come.
And then the last thing, I'll put some pressure on you. Have you seen anything to substantiate the rumor that has been going around about the newly elected senator in Pennsylvania?
His wife has apparently been fairly open about the fact that she and her child are in the Niagara Falls region, and that is feeding into this idea that she has fled to Canada in some corners of Twitter. Unfortunately, the pressure was brought on to me by one Elon Musk, because now that you can get verified by just paying for it, I'm having a hard time disseminating who actually is in the mainstream and who has a decent amount of followers and pays for their check mark. So I don't know. There's certainly a lot of crazies out there who think that that Fetterman is brain dead and that his family has fled to a different country. And that's Twitter for you.
By the way, Niagara Falls, last time I looked, there is a New York component to that.
There's both sides. That's why I said it that way. I was very deliberate the way that I put that. That is, she has said that she was ziplining over Niagara Falls, and half of Twitter is convinced that that's Canada, and I don't quite see why. But
why would you? By the way, there was also the theory that she was going to get appointed to a seat, so she flees because, I guess, this is the beauty of 2023. Nothing has to make sense.
I've also seen a fun date being floated in August, that he's being hidden until a specific date in August because it has something to do with the challenge of the election. It's just, people on Twitter are a special breed sometimes.
It's just something. I'll tell you.
Is fun to watch. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys later this week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes coming soon.